Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Thrive Over Survive. If you have never seen the show, or if you're new to the channel, Thrive Over Survive is my series for helping women or men who are trying to put back their life after dealing with abuse. And so the whole point of the show is to give you actionable tips, give you inspirational stories, and share those stories so that you can find inspiration, hope to not only not just survive your day to day, but thrive in your life overall. Sorry, I keep stumbling over that. I've been tweaking it, and everything on this channel is all about just helping you if you're experiencing abuse or if you are trying to put your life back together, that you can have this is giving those people a voice and raising awareness about domestic violence. I'm going to share a little bit about my own personal story. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, I've talked about it in a few of them. I've shared it on podcasts. What made me feel compelled to share this is the realization I had when writing a chapter for a book that I just participated in. It's all about business on purpose. And for the entirety of running Elf Operations, which is my operations consulting firm, I've been running that business now for about 3 years. And if you can't hear that, that's my dog in the background. But I've been running that business for about 3 years, but there's always been conflicting interests within myself of wanting to advocate and spread awareness and help women or men who are leaving an abusive relationship to get back on their feet, because that was something that I struggled with. Okay, you can see her too. Now you guys just saw her. Yep, there she is. Because I was struggled with that when I started my business, and starting Elf Operations was really what catapulted me into being able to heal and overcome a lot of that trauma, because it forced me to address a lot of the trauma that I dealt with, and it pushed me to address so much personal issues within myself that I didn't even realize were holding me back. So by hitting rock bottom in that abusive relationship, if I'm going to give the highlighted version of that story, if you want the full length version, the link in the description below is going to have a link to get on my newsletter, for my email newsletter, and we will be sending out the release date for the book that my story is going to be featured in, which is Business on Purpose. It's a collection of 30 stories of women who have overcome one obstacle or another in their life and still built a thriving business. And mine is all from building this business for my daughter, for my future daughter, which I now has come to fruition, but when I started the business, didn't know about her. But to be able to be the mom that I wanted to be and be present for them in that way, which a lot of women that I talk to and meet and network with in this area, that's a very common goal when they start their business, especially those who are dealing with abuse. It's so very different starting that business, things I've learned. But the highlighted version of my story, before I get down too many rabbit holes, was I was 22 at the time and found out I was pregnant, or 21 at the time, found out I was pregnant. Was scared because I barely knew the person. I knew that I had made some mistakes in my life at that point. I didn't know what to do, and I just kind of went through the motions and went through what I felt like society said was the best option, was having two parents involved. And even though it was potentially a dangerous situation for my daughter and myself, and then eventually when she was around 8 months old, there was a domestic violence incident that completely altered my life, her life. and led to us ultimately splitting up after being physically assaulted. And it was not the first time, but I was sure as heck going to make sure it was the last, because I could not continue to live like I was walking on eggshells, continue to be gaslit, continue to be isolated, and continued to be emotionally, mentally, and physically abused no any longer, because I knew deep down that's not the life that I wanted my daughter to have, and I did not want her to see that growing up. So once I had been got out of shock and got out of that situation safely, is when I started to rebuild my life, and I slowly pulled myself out of survival mode. If you are familiar with getting out of an abusive relationship, or just going through trauma in and of itself, that your body and your nervous system will be in survival mode, and there's a lot of different um, what's the word, symptoms or signs that will alert you to that, because at the time I did not realize that I was just trying to survive, or that my nervous system was in survival mode. I knew that I was stressed, I was tired, I was overwhelmed, my memory was foggy, like everything just kind of felt like I was in a daze in the months after that. And it wasn't until I finally had safety and stability back in my life that I was able to start rebuilding everything. And that's what led me to, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide for myself? I don't want my abuser to have financial control over me. So what do I now need to do to build those pieces? And that's what led to Elf Operations. It started out as a virtual assistant business. It has now grown to an operations consulting firm. And along the way, it has pushed me to heal from my trauma, but by healing from my trauma, has also led me to be a better business owner. And that's what I want to share today, is a little bit of those insights into what you have to gain by healing from that trauma, and how that can make you a better business owner. Because I hear so often with women or men who are struggling financially after leaving that situation, or who have so much self-doubt, and not sure what to do, and they're still being financially controlled, or they're having problems with their current corporate 9 to 5 job, or whatever job they have, because it's not flexible, and that's limited them in being able to take care of those basic needs in their life. Because that happened to me. It happens to a lot of people. I believe the statistic is almost 40% of victims end up losing their job, or lose their job to something related to leaving the situation, which is a staggering statistic, because it is showing how unflexible certain jobs are when it comes to being able to just simply take care of yourself, because you have to take off work for court. You have to take off work to take care of your kid if you somehow become, or you're suddenly the single parent in the situation, really. So to give yourself a better chance, people tend to skip over the fact that they can work for themselves, they could freelance, they have the ability to have so much more control. And part of that stems from the abuse that they have dealt with. Specifically, I know a lot of women who they struggle with mindset issues, which is a huge part of business. It's strategy, mindset, and having offers. What they struggle with is that mindset piece of, can I do this? Am I good enough to do this? Like the imposter syndrome, the people pleasing. It is very hard to overcome that in your business. But if you can address that, you will be so successful. You've already gotten through the hard part of leaving. Leaving is extremely difficult. I have an example from my own story where I was just sitting at my 9 to 5 job right after everything had happened. I was just so stressed, and I was worried about something at my job, about a project that we were working on, or the feedback that I was going to get because it was something out of my control, but my job was going to be held. In my role, was technically responsible for it, or tasked to see, I was supposed to forecast that. And obviously my performance had been distracted, but I had a coworker come up to me and they said, why are you so stressed? Like, why are you so upset? You've already dealt with and overcome so much in your life. Like, this seems so minuscule in comparison. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I've survived. I got out of that situation. I stood up to my abuser, and I'm a lot stronger than I'm giving myself credit for. And that is something I think a lot of people can relate to. When they're scared of going into and doing the unknown and going into that next step. But leaving my abuser was very similar in the same strength that it took for me to take that leap of faith and start my business, and take that leap of faith and quit my 9-to-5 job, because I had to trust within myself, and I had to trust my support system. And I had to rebuild that trust within myself and with other people. Like, that's a very common, or something I talk about a lot on different podcasts. People will ask, like, what was it like dating and rebuilding your relationship, with my now soon to be husband, because our wedding's in a month. It was hard to regain that trust. And I had to be able to trust myself first and foremost. And that's what led to a lot of problems at the beginning of my business. Was I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my gut. And that was all because of the trauma that I had endured, because I didn't listen to my gut in a lot of the situations, and I talked myself out of things, or I had my emotions were manipulated. They were taking it, my abuser was taking advantage of me being in some emotional turmoil with other things going on in my life, and they manipulated my postpartum depression and hormonal imbalance as postpartum depression, and all this kind of scary things. And so I did not know how to trust myself. So that was like the first building block that I had to redo when I started my business, was being able to trust myself, being able to love myself fully and completely, and feel safe and be the one to nurture myself and coach myself, is now something I'm working on even more. But I had to, for months, just like stop going after all the coaches, and just it it had to be on me. And because I needed to prove to myself I could do this, and I wasn't going to keep using coaches or courses as a crutch for my business, because I had to know that internally I had myself. And that was hard, but it took time to heal and do that. It wasn't like overnight that occurred. It really took practice, and it really took me realizing I need to just make a decision and stick with it, and make that decision out of logic and not out of fear. And be knowing that I could save myself. Like, no one else had to save me. And the worst case scenario that was in my head wasn't as bad as I was making it seem. So realizing, the fear aspect of my subconscious trying to hold me back was another huge part of just being self-aware of what I was doing to sabotage myself subconsciously, what I was doing to sabotage my business, subconsciously. I still have these tendencies, and at every new level that I've hit in my business, new things come up. And after having Lila and dealing with some recurring triggers from my abuser, and having clients gaslight me in the past couple of months, I felt so triggered, and I realized, there are things coming at me that, if I can overcome them and not let them hold me back, that I'm going to be the better business owner. I'm going to be that better person. So reframing all the negative that was happening in my life as, this is something that I need to learn. This is something, an uncomfortableness that I need to sit with and learn from, and not see it as a negative. It's a growth opportunity. So that was something that I learned and healed from when I was going through trauma, is not sitting in victim mode, or not sitting in, that victim mentality. A lot of people talk about that as, there's a time to be sad, there's a time to sit with your feelings, but we have the power to change it and stop. I had to stop letting my circumstances dictate who I was going to be. Um, because if I did that, and if I let that voice inside my head that was trained by my abuser, I was going to continue to be nothing. And I was going to continue to be dependent on them. And I was going to I wasn't going to be able to provide for my daughter. So it really started also with changing the narrative with inside my own head, um, and going through a bunch of personal development journey of just alternate healing that I didn't even know was possible until I had my business and I was able to network with so many women. Like, I bought my laptop for $500 when I started my business, and I look at it now in grounding exercises that I do and breathing exercises, and I look at it and I think that's safety for me, is because of this laptop that I'm streaming on and do my business on. I'm so thankful for this $500 laptop that I invested in, because at the time I didn't have $500 to spend on it. But it has made me so much money, and it has given me relationships that I never would have had I not started this business and put myself through that discomfort. It has led me to learn alternative ways of healing, with rapid transformation therapy, spiritual healing sessions. I've done a plethora of different um, exercises or philosophies because of the women I've met online and their specific businesses, and that's what they do to help others, is these practices or their coaching that they have learned throughout their life. And that has given me the ability to put all these things into place of, being able to trust myself, being able to love myself, being able to change my mindset and coach myself through it. That's been a big thing this year that I've been practicing on through the program that I'm going through now, is deciding and my actions and not questioning it, not letting myself spiral, and really being able to trust myself at this next level. Um, and I'm still addressing like money mindset and different fear-based things in my own head. And now I'm realizing, there's trauma there that had nothing to do with the abuse, but it had to do with things growing as I was growing up. So it's going to happen at different parts of your business or in your journey. But as someone who has gone through it and is dealt with some of the challenges of being a entrepreneur who went through abuse, you have the power, you can take it back, and you are so equipped to be an entrepreneur or a business owner if you have gone through that, because you've saved yourself. You've lived through the worst possible thing I think anyone can go through, is dealing with abuse. And that just makes them so much stronger when they get to the other side, that the trials and the discomfort and the struggles of owning a business is nothing in comparison. Like, I'm not diminishing it by any means, because it is hard in the moment of, there were some months I had low months, there were some months I didn't make any money. But that getting comfortable with the discomfort has been a big thing of putting it into perspective. I've dealt with worse. I can handle this in my business. So that's just like a reminder for anyone who's on the fence of, should I start a business, or is freelancing for me, or is this a way to help me get back on my feet? Because there are a lot of ways for you to work in a different capacity than just a normal corporate or in a normal setting, especially everything that we've gone through in the past couple of years with businesses going remote, more people hiring contractors, everything in that nature. If you can learn or pick up a specific skill of like writing, marketing, systems, tech, sales, anything like that that can be beneficial and useful for a business. It doesn't have to be the most thought-provoking or groundbreaking idea to start a business. I started a VA business. There's thousands of VA businesses now, but you as a person, and you have special talents that you're going to bring. And using those special talents to differentiate yourself is going to be so important when you're starting your business. If you are thinking about starting a business or you're just trying to find resources to get out of an abusive situation, please comment or follow the resource link tagged in the description below, or reach out. My inbox is always a safe place. If you want to see different videos or have different topics that you're thinking about or want us to cover, I have a few guest experts coming in the next few episodes. Please let me know what you would like to see in the comments below. Make sure you hit the follow button. And I'm so excited to bring you more stories and more expertise to help with your journey so that you can not only survive your day to day, but thrive in life and enjoy it. So thank you. And I hope you guys have a great day.